After years of suspecting my husband, I finally hired a private investigator. He sent me photos, and my heart stopped. It wasn't a woman. It was my own father. Shaking, I printed the photos and slipped them into a gift box. That night at dinner, I handed it to my husband. "Open it," I said calmly. The moment he saw the pictures, he nearly choked on his wine. Then my father spoke. "I guess it's time to tell her the truth. I'm a 43-year-old female. Been married for 17 years. We have 2 kids. One's 15, the other's 12. I met my husband, let's call him Mike, when I was 24. We got married fast. I thought we had the kind of marriage people envied. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. At least, that's what I believed for a long time. The lies were small at first. And spaced apart. It started around year 8. Mike would be weirdly vague about where he was going after work. Or he'd get defensive when I'd ask something as harmless as, "Did you eat dinner?" His phone, which used to be left out in the open all the time, suddenly became glued to his body. Locked. Always on silent. I convinced myself it was nothing. He was just tired. Stressed. Work was hard. Life was busy. We had kids, bills, and aging parents. It made sense that something might feel off. Right? But the feeling didn't go away. Then came the trips. Mike ran a small consulting firm. He said he was traveling for expansion, new clients, new regions, all that. Places like Vancouver, Portland, San Francisco, Las Vegas. At first I supported him. But then I noticed something. He'd go on these business trips and come back, disconnected. Like he left part of himself somewhere else. He stopped telling me about his trips. No stories. No receipts. No hotel shampoos in his suitcase. Nothing. Once, I found a bottle of cologne in the glove box of his car. It wasn't a brand he used. It smelled expensive. Different. I asked him about it. He said it was a gift from a client. Another time, I caught him lying about where he was. He said he had a meeting downtown, but the location tag on his phone, yes, I checked, showed he was in Tacoma. When I confronted him, he brushed it off. Said it was a glitch. I wanted to believe him. I started keeping a list. A literal list on my notes app. Dates, strange receipts, lies that didn't add up. I'd talk myself out of it, then right back into it again. I was slowly losing my grip. The thing that finally pushed me over the edge was last summer. We were planning my dad's 70th birthday barbecue. My sister and I put a lot of work into it. My dad, let's call him Jack, has always been kind of the rock of the family. He raised us alone after my mom left. I loved that man. I trusted that man. Mike said he couldn't come to the barbecue because of a last-minute work emergency. I was mad, but I let it go. The next day, while I was doing laundry, I found a folded receipt in the pocket of his pants. A nice restaurant in Vancouver. 2 entrees. 2 drinks. A shared dessert. He told me he was in Seattle that night. My whole body went cold. I didn't say anything to him. Not yet. I needed more than a receipt. I needed something real. So I did something I swore I'd never do. I hired a private investigator. His name was Tom. I found him online. We met at a diner near the Tacoma Mall. He looked like a retired cop. Old school. Big mustache. He didn't ask many questions, just nodded, wrote stuff down, and gave me a flat rate, $1,200 for 2 weeks of surveillance. I paid in cash. I gave him Mike's schedule, license plate, recent trip details, everything. For those 2 weeks, I barely slept. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. That I was creating something that wasn't there. That I was about to ruin my family over a feeling. Then Tom called. He said, "I think you're going to want to see this in person." I went to his office the next day. He handed me a manila envelope. I opened it on the spot. There were about 20 photos inside. I flipped through them slowly. My stomach dropped. Mike. My husband. Holding hands with someone. In restaurants. In parks. At a hotel entrance. Sitting close. Smiling. Leaning in. Then I saw it. One photo, clear as daylight, showed them kissing. But it wasn't a woman. It was my father. Jack. I dropped the photos on the desk. I felt like I had been hit by a train. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even cry. My throat closed. My eyes couldn't focus. My arms started shaking. I just kept whispering, no. 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 I don't know how I made it home. I locked the door behind me, fell to the kitchen floor, and just laid there for hours. I didn't eat. I didn't move. My kids were at a friend's house, thank God. That night, I printed the photos. I bought a small wooden box from a craft store. Lined it with tissue paper. Tied it with a red ribbon. I put the box in a gift bag. I waited. I invited both Mike and my dad over for dinner a few days later. Nothing fancy. Just spaghetti and garlic bread. Our kids were upstairs doing homework. We made small talk. I smiled. I served the food. I acted like everything was normal. Halfway through the meal, I stood up. "Oh," I said, reaching for the bag, "I have something for you, Mike." He looked surprised but took it with a smile. "What's this for?" "Just open it." He untied the ribbon. Lifted the lid. Saw the photos. He went pale. His hands started trembling. He looked up at me like I had just pulled a gun on him. Then I turned to my dad. And he put down his fork. "I guess it's time to tell her the truth," he said. I can't even explain how those words hit me. My ears were ringing. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I was going to faint. Mike started mumbling, "Jack, don't," but my father ignored him. He looked me in the eyes and said, "It started years ago. Before you got married. We didn't mean for it to happen. But it did. And we tried to stop. With my father. There's more. A lot more. I haven't even gotten into the fights, the aftermath, what the kids know and don't know, what's happening with the divorce, my relationship with my sister, the silent phone calls I keep getting from my dad's new number in Palm Springs. But I'll stop here for now. Because I'm still in it. And I don't know how it ends. If you haven't read my first post, here's a short version. I, 43 female, found out my husband of 17 years, Mike, has been having a 15-year affair with my own father, Jack. I hired a private investigator. Got photos. Put them in a gift box. Handed it to him during dinner. Told him to open it in front of my dad. That's when everything blew up. That night didn't end with just the confession. After Jack said, "We didn't mean for it to happen," and Mike admitted to 15 years of lies, I snapped. I threw a plate. Not at anyone. Just, at the wall. I screamed. I told them to get out. My whole body was shaking, like I was being electrocuted from the inside. Mike tried to touch my arm, I pulled away so hard I almost knocked my chair over. My dad had the nerve to say, "Please don't overreact." That word. Overreact. I stared at him like he was a stranger. Because at that point, he was. I said one thing before they left, "You didn't just break your vows. You broke my reality." Mike left that night and hasn't been back. Jack tried texting me. Left voicemails. One of them started with, "I know this is hard for you, but love isn't always clean." I blocked him after that. But it got worse. A few days later, my sister called. "Let's call her Nina." She said, "Dad told me you're mad at him but won't say why. What's going on?" I didn't want to drag her into it. I didn't want to dump the horror on her. But she pressed. I didn't tell her everything, just that Dad had done something unforgivable. That I needed space. That I was considering cutting contact. She said, "Don't be dramatic. He's our dad." I almost laughed. That word again. Dramatic. Then Nina said something that stopped me cold. "Is this about what happened in 2005? I said, "What?" She hesitated. "Never mind. I shouldn't have said anything. Forget I said that." No. I couldn't forget. So I pushed. Hard. I said, "What do you mean? What happened in 2005? She finally told me. Quietly. Nervously. She said that back in 2005, around the time I got engaged, she found messages on Dad's old computer. Emails. Hundreds of them. From Mike. Back then, she thought they were just weird emotional messages. Stuff like, "I can't stop thinking about last weekend and I wish we could be more than this." She thought maybe Mike was venting to Dad, or going through something. But then she found one that said, "When she finds out, she'll never forgive us. We need to stop." Nina said she was 19 at the time. Scared. Confused. She never brought it up again. She buried it. I was silent. Cold. Like ice water had been poured on my spine. I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" She whispered, "I didn't want to ruin your wedding." I hung up. The next day, I opened every wedding photo album I had. I stared at Jack's face. Then Mike's. Their hands. Their eyes. I zoomed in on a photo where they were laughing at the rehearsal dinner. Now I know what I'm looking for. And it's there. Plain as day. Not just friendly affection. There's something else in their eyes. That look people get when they're hiding something. When they're sharing a secret they think no one else can see. I started digging. Pulled out old boxes. My mom's journals, she left when I was 7, but she wrote a lot before she left. Old emails. VHS tapes. Yearbooks. And I found something. My dad knew Mike before I met him. There was a photo, buried in a box of Jack's stuff from 1999. A beach trip. My dad, standing next to Mike. Younger. Smiling. Wearing the same watch I bought him years later, but clearly already his. I stared at that photo for hours. It was labeled, Cannon Beach, June 99. Mike and I met in September 99. But that's not possible, right? Unless they planted the meeting. Unless they planned for Mike to run into me. Unless I was the cover from day one. I texted Mike. I said, "How long have you actually known Jack?" No response. Then I emailed him. One line, "Did you marry me because you loved me, or because you needed a beard?" He replied, "It started before you. But I did love you. In my own way. I still do." That word. My own way. What kind of love is that? What kind of love builds a life on lies? What kind of love uses a daughter to hide a relationship with her father? Now I'm wondering if I was ever anything more than a distraction. A shield. There's more. There's always more. Like the anonymous letter I got in the mail 2 weeks ago. Typed. No return address. Just one line, "Ask Jack what happened in San Diego, 1997. I haven't asked. Yet. But I will. Because I have a feeling this story didn't start with me. And it might not end with just them. I wasn't going to look into it. The letter sat on my nightstand for days. Just one sentence, "Ask Jack what happened in San Diego, 1997. I read it probably 50 times. But now, I wasn't so sure. So I did something I haven't done in years. I called her. She lives in Eugene, Oregon. Still quiet, still distant. I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 7 years. But she picked up. Her voice was tired. Careful. I said, "Mom, I need to ask you something." Silence. Then I said it, "What happened in San Diego?" 1997, she didn't say anything for 30 seconds. Then, "He told you?" I froze. I said, "Someone told me to ask." "What happened?" She sighed. Deep and broken. Then she said words I never expected, "He cheated on me. With a man. I walked in on them in a hotel." My stomach flipped. I whispered, "Who?" Another pause. Then, "I don't know his real name. Jack called him Daniel. But he was younger. Early 20s. Maybe mid-20s. Blonde. Quiet. There was something off about it, something manipulative. Jack was obsessed with him. I think he'd been seeing him for a while. I tried to stay, for you and Nina. But I couldn't unsee it." Then she added, "I saw the way he looked at him. And it wasn't love. It was control." I wrote everything down. Younger man. Blonde. Daniel. Then I sat with it. 4 days. And then, God help me, I looked through Mike's old college yearbook. He went to the University of Oregon. Graduated in 1998. I flipped through pages until I found it. Daniel. Michael Daniel H. Mike's full name. He used to go by his middle name. And there he was, blonde, young, a little thinner. The face was unmistakable. Jack's Daniel was Mike. They didn't meet in 1999. They were already involved 2 years before. When Mike was barely out of college. When Jack was still married to my mom. While we were still a family. My mom walked in on them. She saw it. And she left us because of it. I wasn't just a shield. I was a pawn. I called her back. Asked her if she ever suspected they kept seeing each other. She said, "Of course. But you were so happy." And he was so good to the kids. I told myself I must have been wrong. But she wasn't wrong. She just chose silence. And now comes the worst part. 2 nights ago, my son, my 15-year-old, came into my room. I was half asleep. He was holding my iPad. "Mom," he said, "who's Jack kissing in this picture?" He'd found one of the photos from the envelope. I forgot to delete the cloud backup. I failed. My heart dropped. I couldn't speak. He sat on the edge of the bed, confused. "Isn't that Grandpa? Why is he kissing Dad?" I wanted to lie. But I didn't. I said, "I'm going to explain everything. But not right now. Just know that none of this is your fault. You're safe. And we love you." He nodded. Didn't say a word. He hasn't spoken to Mike since. Mike called that night. I answered. He said, "Did you tell him?" I said, "He found the photos." Mike was quiet. Then he said, "You should have locked them up." I lost it. I said, "No. You should have locked your ****ing zipper. And maybe not destroyed my family." Then I hung up. But there's one more thing. And I'm still shaking writing this. Today, I got another letter. Same style. No return address. One line again, "He wasn't the only one Jack groomed." I don't know what that means. I'm scared to find out. But I will. Because I think I've only scratched the surface. And now I'm starting to wonder, how many lives has Jack touched like this? How many people just stayed quiet? If you've been following my story, you know the pieces. I found out my husband of 17 years was having a 15-year affair with my father. I hired a PI, got the photos, confronted them both. Then I found out they'd known each other long before I met Mike. That Mike was using his middle name, Daniel, when he and Jack first met. That my mom left because she walked in on them years ago. A few days ago, I got a second anonymous letter. He wasn't the only one Jack groomed. And I felt something inside me crack. I didn't know what it meant. I had a horrible feeling it wasn't just about Mike. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I called a family friend. We'll call him Rick. He was close to my dad in the 90s. Used to come over a lot when I was a teen. Always seemed uneasy around Jack. I remember catching him crying once in our driveway after a fight with his parents, but he just told me it was teen stuff. He answered right away. I didn't even say hi. I just said, "Rick, I got a letter that said Dad wasn't just involved with Mike. That he may have groomed other people. Do you know what that means?" There was a long pause. Then he said, "I hoped you'd never ask me that." And my heart sank. Rick told me, voice shaking, that Jack tried to get close to him when he was 17. Kept inviting him over to talk. Gave him expensive gifts. Told him things like, "You're mature for your age and I see things in you no one else does." Rick said he never went all the way with Jack, but it got too close. He said he never told anyone because who would believe him? Jack was the super dad. The hero. The neighborhood nice guy. The PTA leader. The church volunteer. I hung up the phone and just sat in the dark. That same night, my sister Nina called. She was crying. She'd spoken to our mom. And Mom told her everything. Not just about the affair she witnessed, but that she once suspected Jack was grooming his interns, mostly young men from church programs. That broke Nina. She was the last one still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. We decided it had to come out. So we planned something drastic. Our cousin Carla was hosting her birthday at a winery just outside of Seattle. A big family event. Cousins, uncles, everyone. Jack was invited. Mike wasn't. Nina and I showed up with our mom. I brought the envelope of photos. She brought the journal entries from when she was 19. We agreed we would not start the war. But if Jack spoke, we'd finish it. And he did speak. He stood up during the toast and thanked everyone for coming. Smiling. Polished. Like nothing in the world had crumbled. And then, "God, I still can't believe it," he said. "I know some of you have heard some hurtful things about me recently. I just want to say that the truth isn't always black and white. Sometimes love looks different." I stood up. Nina grabbed my hand. I shook her off. I walked to the front and said, "Then let's make it black and white." And I pulled the photos from the gift box. Held them up. 15 years. With my husband. You called it love. I call it a damn crime. The room went silent. No music. No laughter. You could hear someone drop a fork. Then I looked at him and said, "Did you love Rick too? Did you love those interns? Or was that just your pattern?" Jack's face didn't move. But my mom, who had been quiet this whole time, stood and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I left because of what I saw in San Diego. I stayed silent for too long. I'm not protecting him anymore." People started murmuring. Cousins gasped. An uncle stood and told Jack to sit the hell down. And then Mike walked in. I didn't invite him. I found out later Jack had. He walked straight up to me and said, "You're humiliating him. You're making it worse." I lost it. "You think this is about humiliation? He groomed you. You were in college, Mike. He was my father. And then you married me." He whispered, "I loved you. I didn't mean for it to be like this." My voice cracked. But it was like this. Then I looked at everyone and said, "You all looked up to this man. You praised him. You let him sit at our tables and hold our children. And no one saw it." People were crying. One aunt stormed out. Rick was there too. He walked up, hugged me in front of everyone, and said, "I believe you. My son hasn't spoken to his dad since." My daughter cried when she found out. She asked, "Do we still call Grandpa or Grandpa?" I didn't have an answer. Mike sent one last message, "I'm going away for a while. I'm sorry. I loved you, even if I was broken when I did it." I didn't reply. Resolution and reflection. It's been 3 weeks. Jack has gone off the grid. Rumor is, he sold his condo in Palm Springs and left the state. No one's heard from him. I don't want to. Mike is in therapy, from what I've heard through his sister. Good for him. It doesn't change what he did. As for me? I'm starting over. Slowly. Quietly. I moved into a small rental home with the kids. I go on walks. I cry sometimes in the shower. I see a therapist twice a week. I write everything down. I've started journaling again. It helps. I don't trust easily anymore. But I've learned that's okay. Some days I miss what I thought I had. Some days I feel nothing at all. And some days I feel something like relief. I was never crazy. I was never wrong. They just worked really hard to make me feel that way. I wish I could say there's peace at the end of this, but there isn't. Not yet. Just truth. And that's enough for now. Maybe I won't ever get an apology. But I got clarity. And I'll take that.